This is a Rattle and Hum Sports podcast for Tuesday, June the 25th. I'm Bryan Houston, and we are very pleased to have with us the quarterback for the Washington Redskins, Kirk Cousins. How you doing, Kirk?
Doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, great to have you. Thank you very much for being with us. We want to talk to you about your new book, Game Changer, Faith, Football, and Finding Your Way. It gets released today. Tell me why you wrote the book, first of all.
Well, I think this book is an opportunity to use the platform that I have as a professional athlete to have an impact on people, a positive impact. And I wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. I think that's one of the great things that professional sports brings. And so I wrote this book to hopefully positively impact people, especially young people, and help point them in the right direction and show them what it means to make good decisions and how that can lead to great results in your life, which I believe I'm a product of, and feel very fortunate to have been in a situation where I was encouraged to make the right decisions.
I know in doing some reading, getting ready for the interview, some of this comes from the fact that you do a lot of public speaking, and you feel like sometimes you have some unfinished business after you finish doing the 15-minute or 20-minute talk. You feel like there's so much more that you'd like to say. Is that right?
Yeah, I feel like when I get a chance to speak, I'll speak for 10 or 15 minutes, and then people will come up and talk to me afterwards, and then they'll ask me to speak at other events, and I find that I end up saying no, or end up feeling like I can't reach as much of a audience as I could if I put something down in writing and then just distributed it to as many as possible. And so I feel like with all my speaking events, I was able to take basically the material that I talk about and put it down into chapter form and then bind it into a book and be able to have that as a resource for people. So when I go speak places, I can be able to say, Kat, you basically heard one chapter, and now I can give you the other 11 or 12, and then be able to, when people say, can you come and speak, and I just can't make it work with my schedule, be able to give them a resource that I guess is the next best thing. And so I think it's a great opportunity to reach even more people than when you go and speak.
Now, I have to ask you, and we'll get back to the book in just a second, but you're doing media tour right now to promote the book. How does it feel to have to do a media tour for your book and spend as much or more time talking about Robert Griffin III as you do your book?
Well, I've been doing that for over a year now, and I think it just comes with the territory. Being his backup, he is such an exciting sports figure, is as successful right now in the NFL as I think anybody out there, and so it just comes with the territory. With the injury he sustained and how electrifying he is and all the success he's had, being his backup, I'm going to get a lot of questions about him, and I think it's a great opportunity. It's a great thing to be his backup, to be able to go to work every day with a guy who's been that successful, and I'm excited for that opportunity going forward, and I just want to make the most of it, learn from Robert as much as I can, so that hopefully one day I can get the opportunity that he has, which is to be a starter for an NFL franchise.
I'm sure you've watched with great interest, because of your situation, people like Aaron Rodgers, guys like Matt Flynn, who is from Tyler. We've watched him, have to sit and wait his turn. How hard is that for you?
Well, I think it's part of the deal. It's not easy, but I believe it's what the plan that God had for me. And as a backup, I just have to keep preaching the word patience to myself. I understand that things don't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. We just have to keep working, keep grinding. I do believe that the cream always rises to the top. And if I am good enough, I'll get my opportunity to start. It may not happen as fast as I would like, but if I am good enough, I think that opportunity will come. And so it's my job while I'm waiting and while I'm staying patient to be good enough and to work as hard as I can so that when I do get called into action to show what I can do, people say, that guy is good enough to play and he's going to get a chance.
It's interesting, too, that you were playing on a team with RG3 who just kind of leaps off the page. You kind of had to work your way up through the ranks and prove yourself at every level. Is that right?
Yeah, I feel like, I wasn't the most gifted athlete in terms of having the speed or explosiveness that a guy like Robert has, but at the same time, I feel like, we all have our challenges. Robert's had 2 torn ACLs. That's something that is a lot to go through, and even as talented as he is, that's adversity that he had to face and push through and is still facing. And I think that we all face challenges. Nobody gets to the NFL without having to fight through a lot of adversity, but certainly I've had my fair share as well.
Now, talking about your book, how much of a role does your faith play in your approach in your life in writing this book?
Well, it really plays a major role, just because I am a Christian. I mean, that's who I am. That's in the moral fiber of my being. And so it's hard for me to separate and be just a football player or just an author and not have that be a major part of what I say. So the Bible is the foundational truth of my life. That's where a lot of the content comes from. But I believe that the principles in the book are principles that are timeless, regardless of the faith you hold, regardless of the place you work. I believe that those principles are things that we can all agree upon, that surrounding yourself with good people is going to lead to success, that finding the right role models is going to make a difference, that putting in hard work is always going to bring a profit. I think that these are things that really people don't disagree upon regardless of the faith that you hold to.
You watched the way Tim Tebow's career has gone, and there are many people wanting to tear him down because of his religious stance, as there are people who support him. Does that concern you at all in your situation?
You know, I think it's important that when you talk about your faith, that you are authentic and that it comes at people in a real way and that it's not forced. And I think as long as it's not forced and it's authentic, my experience has been that people respond positively and they don't seem to be hostile. And so my desire is to just be authentic, be who I am, have it come out of me naturally. And if people don't like what I have to say or the way I say it, then there's not a whole lot I'm going to change because it's who I am at the end of the day. But I think what I have to focus on is not being fake, not being forced, and not hitting people over the head with the Bible, but letting it just come out of me naturally. And as long as I do that, I've never really had a hostile response to my approach to my faith.
Okay. In your book, there are several of the chapters. I just want to touch on some things. There's a chapter called The Power of a Role Model. There are a lot of pro athletes who believe they don't want to be role models. Charles Barkley was famous for saying, I'm not a role model. What's your take on that? What's your position on your responsibility as a role model?
Well, I think as an athlete, we're on a platform, and you can use that platform however you choose, but you can't change the fact that you're on display. And as you can see with many athletes who are in the news for legal troubles, there are legal troubles going on all over the country, but it doesn't hop into the news as often until there's an athlete taking part. And the same is true of good things. A lot of people are out there doing positive things, positively impacting people, but when you're an athlete, it gets a lot more attention. So that's why I wanted to take the time to write a book, because I knew that using the platform of football and the NFL, I could get that book into a lot of people's hands and really have a positive impact. And so I think that, you cannot deny the fact, even if you're Charles Barkley, that you're on a platform and people are watching what you do. And it's just a matter of what decisions are you going to make on that platform as to how you want to be perceived and as to how you want to impact people.
Who was your role model?
Well, I think it starts and ends with my faith. Jesus Christ is the foundational role model in my life. But then you look at, my dad and then teammates I played with. I talk about Justin Kershaw in the book as a tangible example, an older teammate of mine at Michigan State who helped guide me and gave me an example of what it means to be a great leader, and really paved the way for me to become a captain on the Michigan State team because of the way that he led and gave an example for me to follow. So I think it's important we all have those tangible examples in our lives that can show us the right direction, and Justin was that example for me.
Now, another chapter, it says 80,000 people cheering my failure. Is this about college or the NFL?
It really could be either one, but this particular story in that chapter was when we played Notre Dame when I was a sophomore in college, and I threw an interception to lose the game. I remember walking off the field, hearing the sound of 80,000 people cheering my failures, realizing that, at times in life, you're going to have failures. And in the posture I play, at times in life, you're going to have failures where people end up cheering. And you have to be able to have a way to push through that, play through that, and move on and have success in the future. And so I want to communicate to anybody who reads that book in that chapter that we're all going to face those struggles, but it's about how we respond.
Now, you also talked about one of the chapters is friends are a big deal. Talk a little bit about that and what that's about.
Well, I think, a big reason why I've been able to make it to the NFL is because I was told that at a young age, that the people I surround myself with are going to have a major impact on who I become. And so I was very careful to choose my friends wisely. And as I moved on from high school to college and made new friends, to make new friends and to be careful to choose those friends wisely as well. And I think that I've also watched many teammates in college who did not choose their friends wisely, and it put them in a position where they were not able to have the success they wanted to, and their football career didn't become what it could have been because they were hanging around the wrong kind of crowd. And so I wanted to encourage as many young people as possible to choose their friends wisely, to be very careful about who they surround themselves with, and understand that when they get to my age or older, they'll be very thankful that they did that because it will have such a positive impact on the life that they lead.
I'm sure a major portion of this book has to do with being drafted by the Redskins. How did you feel when you were drafted by the Redskins, knowing that they had already drafted RG3?
Well, it was a little disappointing just because I realized that no matter how well I played, I wasn't going to get the opportunity to start. So it seemed like a bit of a dead end, but what I thought to be a dead end, I think God is using for my good. And He's putting me in a position where I'm learning from great coaches. I think being around Robert and learning from him is very valuable. And I think being a part of Redskins is a great thing right now. It's a great franchise to play for, and there's a great fan base here in the D.C. area. So I'm excited about being a Redskin, and I think that while I initially was a little bit disappointed, it's a really good thing for me, and we'll just see how the future unfolds.
You mentioned something about God wanting to put you in uncomfortable situations. Is this one of those?
You know, I think initially it was. I think that being in D.C. wasn't what I expected. It was a little bit out of the blue, and it was almost so strange that I felt like God had to be involved in it. And now I think He's using it to grow me as a person, to mature me. And again, we all face challenges. We all face adversity. I wouldn't say being drafted in the NFL is necessarily adversity, but it certainly wasn't the way I expected it to happen. And I think still God is using it, and it's going to be a good experience for me going forward.
Also, you mentioned privilege as being a key word in this book. Talk about your perspective on privilege.
Well, that was where, the Big Ten speech that I gave back in 2011, where the book really came out of, that was what it was all about, was that as a Big Ten athlete, as a professional athlete, we are privileged. And people who are privileged tend to, by human nature, respond with entitlement and believe that I deserve to be treated a certain way because I'm privileged. And I believe that the opposite needs to be true. We need to say, because I am privileged, I need to expect even more of myself, and I need to treat people with a greater sense of responsibility. And so that's what the book is all about. That's what my speech is all about, that inspired the book, and that sense of the fact that when you are privileged, you need to up your game and respond with an even greater sense of responsibility rather than respond with entitlement.
How did you become so wise at the age of 24?
Well, I think I'm still learning, but I'll tell you that, building my life on the Bible and the foundational truths of the Bible, those are truths that are simple, that a baby can grasp, but at the same time are life-changing. And so learning those principles has made a major difference in the decisions that I've made in my life, and I believe played the biggest role in getting me to where I am. And then also having the proper role models and the proper friends who can teach these things to you on a regular basis. When you surround yourself with good people, it rubs off on you.
As far as the coming season is concerned, I know you've been able to take all the snaps with the first team while RG3 rehabs his knee. Talk a little bit about how you prepare for a season, not really knowing what the situation will be, when he'll be available, and so forth.
Well, because I don't know what's going to happen, I have to prepare as if I'm the starter. And that was my approach last year, even though it was unlikely that I would play. I have to prepare that I'm the starter. And as a result of doing that, it served me well when I did get called into action, and I, out of the blue, was forced to play because of an injury to Robert. I was glad that I had prepared as hard as I did. So I have to continue to do that week in and week out this next season. Even if Robert is healthy, which I expect him to be, I have to be ready to go and have no excuses if the time comes for me to play.
Okay, and you realize then that probably another 3 years of this, and then the world could be your oyster, right?
Well, we will see. I think that if I can take advantage of the chances I do get to play while I'm in D.C., that certainly there will be other teams who will be interested and will come calling. And if I do get that chance to be a starter, certainly I'll be a happy man and excited for that opportunity. But, I got to take care of the here and now and focus on what's important right now so that hopefully, you're absolutely right, I can get to a place where a team wants me to be their starting quarterback, and I have a great chance to lead not only a franchise, but hopefully be a part of leading an entire city and having impact on even more people.
Well, Kirk, you're a very impressive young man. I look forward to being able to read the book in greater detail. It sounds like something I'd like to share with my 16-year-old. And we wish you, even though you're a Redskin, of course this is Cowboys country, we do wish you the best of luck. And by the way, how do you like playing in Jerry Stadium there?
You know what? We played there on Thanksgiving Day last year. That was a special environment. Our team played very well. We got an early lead, and then the Cowboys clawed back, which we knew they would. And it was just a great NFL football game on a great NFL football day in a phenomenal venue to play a football game. And looking forward to getting back there next year and hopefully getting a similar result.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Kirk. Good luck with the book. It's Game Changer, Faith, Football, and Finding Your Way. Available at bookstores and online, of course, by Zondervan. And best of luck with the book and best of luck with your football career, okay?
Okay, thank you for having me on.
Great to have you on. And that's Kirk Cousins, the Washington Redskins quarterback. And this is Bryan Houston for Rattle and Hum Sports. Thanks very much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.